tonight, and the reason for this live is I want to talk a little bit of E7th lap steel tuning with you. So yesterday and earlier today, I had the opportunity to have several good conversations with other steel guitarists who either started out with the E7th tune-in or at some point they played it, or maybe they've gotten curious about it. So the point of tonight's video, we're going to kind of rehash a couple things that I've already been through. If you've had a chance to watch my part one, part two of E7th, you kind of know where we went with that. But I wanted to kind of rehash a couple of these things because I had a couple of good questions about E7th tuning. So this is an interactive thing. Now, this live video will actually be made public afterwards, and it'll kind of be part three of my series. You ask, well, why do a live video? Well, I like these things to be interactive if anybody does happen to be watching, so that's kind of the point of that. But again, it'll be made public afterwards, and feel free to comment then. So without further ado, we want to talk steel guitar. So let me actually lower my camera there to where you can see. So to start out, right now we're in E7th tuning. So what that means is B, D, E, G sharp, B, and then an E. So this, just to give you some orientation of where we're at, this high E string right here would be your fourth string on a pedal steel guitar tuned to E ninth. So why is that important? Well, the E7th tuning is unique in that it lines up with the E9th pedal steel fretboard. I want to clarify that because when you start out as a lap steel player, okay, so let's just say, because I know there's a lot of you out there that are going to be watching this, you've obtained one of these. Whether it's a one like mine that's some old no name that, maybe it's not new, or it's a new Rogue, which are a very affordable option in the lap steel world. It doesn't matter. Whatever you've obtained, if you've obtained a 6-string lap steel, this is what you've got. And there's a strong possibility that if you've obtained a 6-string lap steel, just like this, that you have some ambition of playing a pedal steel. Not necessarily, and if you don't, that's fine. But a lot of people do start with these because they're more affordable. So why is this tuning important? Okay, well let me show you now. So we're going to get into the meat of this lesson here. So there's some similarities here to the pedal steel. First of all, these two grips are exactly the same as on the pedal steel. So whether you grab the top 3 strings or this next set, strings 2, 3, and 4, those grips are identical to a pedal steel. So for example, open, it would be the E chord. So if I play at the 12th fret, I have an E chord. So that's pretty easy to find the major chords, right? If I play at the 8th fret, C chord, 3rd fret, G chord, 1st fret, F. So you see, we're lining up there. Now also, if you're a guitarist, you'll find some similarities there too. So why the E7th tuning over, say, open E? Well, there's nothing wrong with open E. I have had open E tuning on a lap steel. I've had open D tuning. No problems with those. The big difference you'll find is your bottom string on an open E tuning would be a really thick, low E, which is, in this case, it's a B. But why is this tuning kind of cool? Well, because so much of what you have here is similar to the pedal steel. Now, the only real difference with this tuning is on your bottom grip, which I'll demonstrate that for you. Making a C chord there. So on a pedal steel, if you had a 10-string pedal steel, while these are the exact same strings, this is the same as if you were playing 6, 8, and 10. The only difference is that grip is not the same. However, your 5th string is in the same place in relation to the ones around it. So it is still between your low B and your third or your eighth string E. And remember, in pedal steel, or in steel guitar in general, normally when people talk about, they're counting back. So if they say their first string, they're talking about their highest. So if I said my first string, I'd be talking about my high E string. And if I said my sixth string, or if this were a pedal steel, my 10th string, I'd be talking about this lowest string, which is a B. So why is all that important? So you're a lap steel player, or you've bought a lap steel and you want to play pedal steel. So I'm here trying to sell you on the E7th tuning. So why am I doing that? Because you can take this tuning and you can go to a pedal steel and be ahead of the game. So how is that? Well, check this out. Ah, how about that? So now we're going from a 1 to a 4 chord. Now that's the sounds we all wanted to get, right? I mean, how many of us have stayed up all night long hoping we could make those kind of sounds, and looking on eBay and the steel guitar forum and thinking, man, if I could just afford one of those steel guitars with pedals and knee levers. Well, if you've got the itch like most of us did, I'm not going to say that a 6-string lap steel will fulfill all that, but it can get you by, and it can get you to a point to where you're more ready for a pedal steel when you finally get one. Now, when you get a lap steel, if you're like most people, you're going to start out with a tuning, or you're going to be told to start out with a tuning called C6. Or if you Google most popular lap steel tunings, guess what? They're going to tell you to get C6. Is there anything wrong with that? Nope, nothing at all. The only thing is, if you approach this, and I'm going to talk to y'all for a second. I'm going to let you look at me so I feel like I'm talking to you. So if you start with C6 and your ultimate goal is to play an E9 pedal steel, you're in two different worlds there. Now, maybe you love Western swing and Hawaiian and old country, and C6, that's just your flavor. Hey, nothing wrong with that. The bottom neck of most double neck pedal steels is a C6 neck. So hey, you're in home country then. So there's nothing wrong with that. And there's a lot can be learned. There's a lot of instructional material for C6. So by all means, don't let me talk you out of it. I simply want to reach those who are buying one of these with the intention of playing country. I really cannot tell you how many posts I have seen on the Facebook steel guitar groups, on the forum. Somebody has left me this, and then insert variations of, lap steels, old battered lap steels, or even console steels that were maybe once a homemade pedal steel, and all they have left is, just the body. And, they're kind of working with skeletons here. There's not a lot to work with. So I want to help you find a tuning that will keep you from getting discouraged, because let me tell you something. With the world of steel guitar, especially pedal steel, the easiest thing that can happen is to get discouraged, because number one, it's an expensive hobby. I know some of you are going to disagree with me on that, but if you kind of buy everything, and when I say everything, I mean, newer equipment, all too often, I'm seeing a lot of this nowadays, steel guitarists are starting with equipment that's just not viable. And that's coming from a guy who started with a Showbud Maverick, by the way. Now, mine was in fully functioning order. I'm not saying it was perfect, but mine was okay. But I'm not even talking about Showbud Mavericks. I'm talking about some home-built contraption that's been in a garage since the 60s, something that's pull release, and if you're already in steel guitar, you know what I'm talking about. So it has its limitations. Now, if that's all you can find, it's all you can find. Hey, been there, done that. My second steel guitar was a Miller Custom D10 65 model. No roller nuts, by the way. Straight, just metal bar for the nut. It had parts underneath it that probably didn't even belong in a steel guitar. Now, it's all worked over now. I still have it. It's a great guitar, but it still has its limitations. Now, Could that have discouraged me, and has that discouraged people? Yeah, absolutely. So that's where I want to help you. I want you to pick up one of these, and I don't want you 3 weeks from now to say, this just isn't working. It's I can't afford one of those new Mullen pedal steels. I can't afford one of those nice new GFI pedal steels. And here I am playing this, Hawaiian tuning, and it don't suit the kind of music I want to play. I don't want you to find yourself in that predicament, because so many of us have. And again, if that's your flavor, it's your flavor. Nothing's going to stop you. Maybe your dream guitar is a Fender 1000 with, C6 as your predominant tuning, or maybe a 13th tuning and a 16th. It's all personal choice. But again, this video is for somebody that wants to make some country sounds. So let's get back to that. So let me go back to the view of my lap steel. Okay, so again, with this tuning, everything kind of lines up. So let me play just a little bit of Wildwood Flower, kind of like I would on my pedal steel. Now, does that sound completely like a pedal steel? No, and I never said it did. But kind of getting those runs, being able to, do stuff like that, it gets you in the ballpark. Now, this tuning, like all lap steel tunings, it does have some limitations. So, for one, you may ask yourself, well, why is this called the E7th tuning? Well, here's why. Because say I grab these strings here. So I'm grabbing strings 5, 4, and 3. Hear how I'm getting that 7th chord? Well, that's where the tuning gets its name, E7th. But what's cool about that? Whatever fret you're at, so if I'm at the 3rd fret, and I grab these, guess what chord I'm getting? Getting a G7th chord. If I grab top 2 grips or the bottom grip, what chord am I getting? A G chord. So it's relative to wherever you're at. E7th, 12th fret, or open. So again, this tuning's really easy to line up with the fretboard. So if you know anything about the E fretboard, whether you're, a guitarist, or maybe you've dabbled in some pedal steel and you just want something lighter to take to gigs, could this be the answer? Well, possibly. Now, a lot of folks are using benders and palm pedals now. I'm seeing a lot of those where people will actually have the benders that you can bend. And this tuning's perfect for that, because kind of like the open tuning, the strings you're going to want to bend the most, well, they're right here side by side, and that's strings 2 and 3, just like I demonstrated earlier. So I'm doing it with my bar, no big thing. I have tried palm pedals. They're not for me. They, you see where I lay my hand? Well, if I had palm pedals, they would actually stick out to about right here. So unfortunately, they're not for me, but they may be for you. I'm not discouraging those. They're a great tool for many steel guitarists, and they can add a lot of variety to your playing. So don't be afraid of palm pedals. If that's something you want to try, then do it. So I want to demonstrate with this tuning just a little bit more. So there's my variation of the Tennessee Waltz in E7th. Now, if you'll notice, one thing that I didn't talk about yet, anyway, was minor chords. Well, there's a reason for that. So minor chords are a little difficult to get in the E7th tuning. I never said they were impossible. I said they were a little difficult to get. So to get a minor chord, well, there's a couple ways. One, we kind of have to fake it a little bit. So I want you, if you've dabbled in a pedal steel, I want you to imagine pushing the A pedal in and grabbing strings 8 and 5. So we're grabbing strings 8 and 5 on a pedal steel, we're plucking them, and we're pushing the A pedal. So that's, with this tuning, that's one way we kind of get in the ballpark. Another way, and this one's really finicky. So our top grip, strings 1, 2, and 3. If you have enough precision, you can slant the bar back half a fret. And you can get, again, as close to a minor chord as you're going to get with this tuning just as it is. Other than, on 2nd fret, if you put the bar over string 2, there's your C sharp minor. So that was pretty easy to find right there. So just in case you want to try that, I'm playing string 1 open. The bar is over string 2 at the 2nd fret. See, I've kind of got it tilted up here. And the 3rd string's open. So that one's easy to get. But if I want to get an A minor, a B minor, I'm kind of having to play with the bar a little bit. And that's okay. That's a technique you can get good at. It's called a bar slant. But say you really need those minor chords, and maybe the bar slants, it doesn't make a pretty sound like you need. Well, I have somewhat of an answer for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to tune the 5th string, which is currently D. We're going to drop it down to a C sharp. All right, so now we're down to a C sharp. So what happens now? Uh-oh, we have minor chords. And it works the same as the 7th chord. So now, theoretically, we're in E6 tuning. Not the same E6 that Don Helms used with a high G sharp. We're in just a different variant of it. But it's the same thing as the 7th chords. Whatever fret you're at, that's the minor chord. So here I am at the 8th fret. So that I'm in the key of C. So my minor chord is, actually I need to rephrase that because that's not exactly the same. What I meant by that is I'm in the key of C. So the minor chord is relative to the key of C, A minor. I'm trying to say this in a way, sometimes when I'm talking about music theory, I confuse myself a little bit. So bear with me. I don't want to confuse you in any way. I want you to be able to go to your steel and set it up in this tuning and understand it. Okay, so I don't want to confuse anybody. So we get a really pretty minor chord when we do that. So say I'm playing a song like Rainy Night in Georgia. And I don't know about y'all, I don't play my steel guitar and sing very often. I normally play my flat top. But say I'm doing that, you know, it's. Neon signs are flashing, taxi cabs and buses passing through the night. The distant moaning of a train seems to play a sad refrain to the night. Here's where those minor chords come in. It's a rainy night in Georgia. It's a rainy night in Georgia. I believe it's raining all over the world. So see, I'm able to utilize those minor chords heavily on some songs, and you just have to forgive my terrible singing. I just wanted to demonstrate that. So you ask yourself, okay, this guy has shown me how to take a seventh tuning to a sixth tuning, and he's shown me how to get minor chords. But what if I still need seventh chords? And you very well may. So one way to do that, for example, here at the 12th fret, if you still need as a seventh chord, you could slant the bar half a fret forward. And I don't make it sound very pretty. I'm not going to pretend I'm an expert, but that is one way you could do it. Now, one thing I want you to keep in mind, my lap steel that I'm playing here, this is a long scale guitar. This one is actually 24 1/4, I believe, which is the same scale as a pedal steel, but chances are your lap steel will be a shorter scale. There are some that are longer, some that are shorter, but the slants that I'm doing, those slants, they're harder on the longer scale. They're not impossible, but they're harder. So I have to work a little harder than you may. Now there's trade-offs with a long scale versus short scale, but that's a conversation for another day. But right now, I want you to just kind of grasp what I'm doing, how I'm making minor changes to this tuning, and I'm making the suitability. But another way to get a seventh chord on this tuning, and I'm going to play up here where you can see, if I take the top three strings, 1, 2, and 3, and I pluck them, and I'm purposely kind of holding the bar wrong so you can see. I'm not really playing it right. I'm just kind of holding it so you can see. That's another way to get a seventh chord. Now, what you can kind of envision there is on a pedal steel to do that very move. What I would have actually done is plucked those strings. I would have hit the B pedal and the E and E lever at the same time. And then me releasing it would be. Now, the funny thing is, when you get to pedal steel, if you've been playing a tuning like this, sometimes it's kind of hard to adapt because instead of doing bar slants, you've got pedals and knee levers that'll do that for you. And sometimes it throws me off a little bit. So, and another one that throws me off a lot is this one. I get used to kind of a, you know, it's almost as if I just have one pedal, you know, and you know, on a pedal steel, it's divided into two, A and B. So it gets a little confusing. So, you know, the advice I would give somebody, if you are bound and determined to play a pedal steel, if you can get a good pedal steel, get one. There is no substitute for the real thing. But lap steel can be a lot of fun. Please do not get discouraged. Um, if all you can find or all you can afford is a 6-string lap steel. Now, I got a pedal steel first. I was lucky. I found a Showbud Maverick years and years and years ago for $600. So I was fortunate. But then this bad boy here showed up on the Steel Guitar Forum for a really good price. It was really cool because it's homemade. It's one of. And you know what? I ended up finding a whole new love for lap steel guitar. So am I angry about that? No. I play this more than I play pedal steel. But I'm really intrigued with that new D13th tuning that you're seeing a lot of folks work with. And I have a Pedal Master S12 Universal that is I think it's only set up for extended E9 now, but I've got all the mechanics. And I need to let somebody set that up for me because I am certainly no pedal steel mechanic. So we can all together play with D13. The point, and here I am talking to thin air again. You are all people out there watching, so I'll talk to you face to face. The point of these videos is, again, I see a lot of you that are out there saying, "Hey, I want to get into pedal steel, but I don't know which direction to go." Or everybody says this is the cool thing that all the cool kids are doing. I want to try it, but I don't know. That's why I do these videos, because I have a lap steel. I mess with some of these funny tunings, and if I can share it with you and it's helpful, then it saves you from spending money on strings, which are not getting any cheaper, steels that are not getting any cheaper. So you can figure out, hey, you know what? That E7th tuning, those lap steels, that's not the direction I want to go. Maybe I need to save up for another 6 months or so and buy a pedal steel. That's the decisions I want to help you make. You may watch my video and say, you know what? Musician's Friend, they had that, and watch out for this, by the way, the stupid deal of the day. A while back, I got a Rogue lap steel. Now, I know, not the greatest thing in the world, but I got a Rogue lap steel. Comes with legs, comes with a gig bag for $85 from Musician's Friend. It was the stupid deal of the day. That's a pretty cool thing to watch. And they do have the Rogue lap steel as that deal somewhat often. I think I've seen it 3 or 4 times since I got mine. And you know what? It's not a bad little guitar. It's really short scale. It's only a 21-inch scale. So that part's, iffy. But you know what? It's a good, solid guitar, and it sounds good. And that's actually the one that I put the benders on, the Relapse benders. And I actually traded that guitar off. There's nothing wrong with it, but I have too many steel guitars. I have a living room full of stuff. Some of it needed to go. So back to the tuning though. So I'm gonna lower the camera back to my lap steel so you can see it. So again, we're in E6 tuning right now. So we're able to get minor chords. So see, we're able to get some pretty sounds out of that. And again, we've talked about if you still need a 7th chord, see, it's still possible. For me personally, this variation of E6 is the most versatile of the 2 tunings I've just talked about between E7 and E6. Now, say you're saying to yourself, okay, this guy's got me intrigued. I want to mess with this tuning, but I don't want to buy a pack of E7 strings just to decide I don't like it. Well, I have some good news for you. You can get to this tuning from a C6 pack of strings. The only problem you might have is this string right here. That's your E string. So on a C6 pack, it's meant to be a G, because C6 is C, E, G, A, C, E. This one may be a little bit floppy if you come from a C6 pack. Unless you're like me and your guitar's a little bit longer scale, you might be okay. But if you're playing a normal lap steel that's, let's say, somewhere between 21 and 22.5-inch scale, which a lot of them are, you may find this string to be a little floppy, but that's okay for experimentation purposes. So don't worry about that. So by all means, you can try it. Now, the question that was posed to me the other day, and in fact, somebody asked me today, is about getting to other tunings from A tuning. So we started with E7th, now we're in E6th. So we're getting some more of those Hawaiian sounds, right? But say you say to yourself, self, that E6 tuning, that ain't cutting it for me. Well, I have another option for you. Now, I'm going to warn you, so don't get confused here. If you're liking these E-bass tunings, where, everything kind of lines up compared to a pedal steel and, a guitar neck, y'all bear with me. My input jack needs some work. But that's what happened, and that's kind of backs up my point, folks. If you are a beginner and you're getting into steel guitar, get something that's fully functional. And I'm really glad my guitar did that just then, because if I were a beginner, that could be very frustrating. So see, I have to mess with it to get it working. Now, luckily for me, I have lots of lap steels and lots of pedal steels, so I'm a fortunate guy. But if you're out there and you're just starting out, well, that could be bad. That could be detrimental. So don't let that happen to you. So see, like now, we're going to have to get this thing back to working. And then I'm going to show you something pretty crazy. Come on, guitar. See, we don't cut here. Everything's live. And that's okay. Maybe if I turn this way. But see, folks, that's my point. And I saw, matter of fact, I saw this just the other day. Someone had bought just a really trashed out old double neck pedal steel, or maybe someone had passed away and left it to them. I don't know. And they were asking, was it worth their time? And everybody was commenting, oh yeah, it can be fixed. It's a project. Well, yes, it can, but as a beginner, do you really want to put that kind of effort, into it? Is that really what you want to do? So, that's why I do these videos. Y'all just bear with me. See, there we go. All is well. So I got to warn you though, before we get to this next tuning, everything we've talked about in an E-bass tuning, we got to throw out the window, okay? But I'm doing this because someone in particular wanted to know about jazz steel guitar, and could it be played on a lap steel? And I'm not the best person to answer that question. I'm really not. But they were asking if it could be played on the E7th or E6 tuning. Now, I mean, theoretically, you can play any genre on any tuning, but some tunings work better for certain things. So, with that in mind, we're going to go to G6th tuning. So, to do that, first of all, let's don't forget about our bottom string here. Let's tune it back up to a D, or our second to bottom. All right, so we got that one back in tune. So what do we do to get to G6th? Not C6, but G6th. We take our top string, which is an E, and we lower it to a D. All right. It's always good if you're not experienced musically, keep a tuner nearby just so you're in the right place. Okay, and our third string, we've got it at a G sharp. Let's lower it to a G, okay? And also check your other strings to make sure they don't drift a little bit when you do this down tuning, or if you tune back up. But the moral of the story, we're now in G6. So, and I will have to go back and I will send this to you individually. I'll find your comment. But to the person that was asking me about, the jazz tuning, I really think, to answer your question in short form, I think you will be happier in a sixth tuning like this. So let's say maybe the intro to Crazy. see, it lines up. You get those big, beautiful, full sounding chords. See, just beautiful things you can get with that. Now, you may be saying to yourself, man, I've never heard of G6 tuning. And to be honest with you, other than maybe an occasional post here and there, I really wasn't familiar with it either. The beauty of it is, though, is it's A6 tuning, but all the way down to a G. So there is a little bit of A6 learning material and tablature out there. So how does that work? Well, I don't want you to confuse yourself, okay? But theoretically, you can use that same tablature, but play everything 2 frets higher. That can get confusing, okay? Transposing stuff, don't let it get you all confused. So, this tuning is just easy to get to. That's why I wanted to show it to you, because it's easy to get to from E7th or E6. But you really get that 6th sound out of this tuning. See, so if you're into Western swing, things like that, you can have a heyday with this. So as you can tell, I don't spend a lot of time in G6 tuning, and that's okay. That's not. It's just not something I use a lot. But it's a bolder tuning that you can definitely. And I'll move the camera back up so we can talk more. It's a bolder tuning where you can get a little bit more fullness, a little bit more flavor. But again, don't confuse yourself. Okay, so if you're determined, hey, I want to play a pedal steel. Well, that tuning's not exactly found on either neck of a double neck pedal steel. It could be. There's people with all kinds of custom copedants, as we call them. But don't confuse yourself, okay? I will tell you this, on an E9 pedal steel, if you push the A and B pedal down, you get to the A6 tuning, which is a whole step above the G6 tuning. So theoretically, there could be some comparison. But if you're a beginner, again, I don't want you to confuse yourself. I'm just showing you that predominantly because I have a couple questions about it. A couple of you were very kind and emailed me with some questions about, where can I go with this? I know you can take a tuning and you can go to other tunings from it. And that's not always the case, depending on what pack of strings you have, the gauges, things of that nature. You may not always be able to retune a C6 pack of strings to whatever desired tuning. So, kind of do your homework on that, or if you have questions about it, you're welcome to email me. My email is in the description of my channel. It's showbudplayer77@gmail.com. And if I can answer your questions, I will try. If I don't know the answer, I will try to find you the answer, because I don't want anybody to be led the wrong way, because some of you are beginners that'll be watching this, and some of you have a strong desire to get into steel guitar. And again, having been in your shoes, it's easy to get discouraged, and I don't want you to do that. No question is a bad question, okay? So again, we're in G6 tuning now. Now let me back my camera back down so you can see my steel guitar. So I'm not going to bore you with music theory, number one, because I'm not an expert at it. But I will tell you this. So I told you to throw everything out the window we had just talked about, right? Well, I wasn't kidding, because the fretboard no longer lines up like it did a while ago, where E was here, all that. It's not happening. So what happened? Well, we went down to a G tuning. So on the 12th fret, that is G. But now we have some minor chords. What minor chord do we happen to have? We have an E minor chord. So what does that mean? Well, if we go to the 5th fret, which in the E tuning would have been A, correct? Well, guess what our minor chord is there? It's an A minor. So what does that mean? Well, if you don't know a lot about music theory, let me help you out. And it's okay if you don't. I'm not ridiculing you. I'm just saying it's okay if you don't know anything about this yet. But if at the 5th fret, where A would normally be, we're getting an A minor chord, you can almost think backwards to find out where you're at. The major chord there would be C. And then that relative minor to C is A minor there. So same deal with 12th fret. If you're saying, hey, that's an E minor, well, the major chord there must be G. So kind of think backwards if that helps you. And if that confused you and you want me to talk about that a little more, shoot me an email. We'll talk about it. So that's all good. I love good conversations about this stuff. But again, the reason I saved this tune for last, I don't want to confuse you, okay? I want you to take your steel guitar, and I want you to sit down at it, and I want you to feel comfortable. So if all that means is you strumming the major chords along to a song as somebody plays, that's okay, because you can do that with the E7th. Look, here's how simple it is. With the E7th tuning, you can literally sit there on the 12th fret, and if you leave out that 5th string, so you're just, which it'll sound different. Right now I'm in a 6th tuning, but if you're grabbing that bottom string and almost strumming it just like you would a guitar, guess what you're getting? You're getting an E chord all day long. If you're at the 8th fret, which again, don't listen purely to what I'm playing, because again, we're in a different tuning. Now, I'm just demonstrating how this works. But if you're grabbing that bottom string, skipping the 5th string, and playing the rest of them, you'd be getting a C chord. So you can strum all day long. And if that's what it takes for you to get comfortable with where everything's at on a steel guitar, hey, that's okay. That's great. So that's what I encourage you to do, okay? Small steps. I mentioned earlier that I started out with a pedal steel. You know how much I learned? This much. That's how much I learned. Yes, I invested in all the books. I had several pedal steel books, and you know what? They weren't cheap. This was circa 2010 to 2012, and there when I was really getting started. Some of those books were probably, some of them were over $40. They came with a CD or what have you. But I learned this much. You know why? Because I was looking at it all wrong. I would watch these videos and they would, looking back, it was probably simple what they said. And one of them in mind in particular, I think it was simple, but they just didn't put it in a way that locked in with it. I was a teenager at the time, but it wasn't locking in. There was a lot of talk about the circle of fifths, which now I have a better grasp on. But at the time, it was just like, man, I don't get this. And I feel like if somebody had handed me a 6-string lap steel and said, hey, dude, 12th fret, this is E tuning, so open is E, and then 12th fret's E, and kind of showed me where everything in between was, I would have at least had a grasp of where the fretboard laid out. And that's one of the greatest regrets that I have, is I never really got into the zone early on. It took me a lot of years. I don't care to tell you, I just turned 30. And I feel like I'm just now really starting to get somewhere with the steel guitar. Now, I never said I was a good player. I just said I'm starting to grasp where everything's at. But you know what? Even with that simple E7 or E6 tuning, I feel confident because I know where the chords are. That don't mean you're going to be able to play, or I'm going to be able to play the most beautiful melody, but to know where everything's at. Let me tell you, it's a feeling of confidence you'll never find anywhere else. To be able to sit down and say, hey, the progression of this song, C, F, and G, I know where that's at on the fretboard. Man, there's nothing like it. And I want you to have that feeling. So that's the purpose of these videos. And again, don't confuse yourself, okay? If you obtain a steel guitar or a dobro for that example, it's okay. Whatever you find. Maybe you take a 2x4 and you buy the kit from CB Giddy and you go out in the garage tomorrow and you build a lap steel. I don't care. Maybe you find some old beaten up guitar, at a Goodwill or something, and it's all warped and you put some strings on it and you play it like a lap steel. I don't care what you've got, but I want you to be able to sit down at it and be confident. You know what? Looking back, I would have probably been just as happy if I had found an old warped electric guitar, put strings on it, and played it like a lap steel, because I feel like I would have understood it better than if I had the nicest pedal steel in the world. And that's what I want you to take away from these videos, okay? If you start small, it's perfectly fine. I'm going to leave you with this thought because, again, I'm seeing a lot, and I do mean a lot, of steel guitarists, both on the forum and on the Facebook groups. They're getting stuff that is not feasible equipment. And what I mean by that is they're getting steel guitars that are no longer playable. They're getting steel guitars that are too complicated for a beginner to fix up. And I'm not discouraging you from a project, but as a guy who, has had several projects that he didn't quite finish, he ended up selling them to people that hopefully will. But I got nowhere with stuff like that, okay? I mean, that stuff discouraged me bad. I don't want you to be in those shoes, okay? You may find an old Showbud, lucky if you do find an old Showbud at a garage sale one day, and, it's an old pull release permanent. It's a beautiful guitar, but man, it's mangled up underneath. It's going to discourage you all day long versus if, all you have is, $200 lap steel that you can get your hands on. You're going to come out far ahead with something that's workable. But get you something that works. Do not let yourself get bogged down with a project yet. You can be a project person later, okay? So keep that garage handy and keep those tools handy. But right now, as a beginner, get something, even if it's not top notch. I mean, you can get on Amazon and get an SX lap steel, I believe they're called. I believe the 8 or the 6 is $275. They come with legs. And that's another thing. Decide where you want to be. Am I saying you have to start out with a 6-string lap steel? No. More than 6 strings, honestly, it confuses me a little bit. I just want to be honest with you about that. Now, I am thinking about getting a 7-string because I want to experiment a little bit. But having had, I've even had a 10-string lap steel and right over my head. 6-string is comfortable for me. And you know what? Wherever you're comfortable, that's where you need to stay. Okay, you can progress in your own time, but don't feel like just because the world says you need to get you a double neck with 8 pedals and 5 knee levers, maybe that's too much for you right now. It was obviously too much for me to learn anything, but did I learn with a 6-string lap steel? You bet I did. Do I feel more confident now on the pedal steel because of my lap steel time? You bet I do. So the message I want to leave you with is, first of all, decide where you want to be. Decide, do I need to take this slow? Am I confident in music theory yet? Am I confident how a fretboard lays out? And then decide, okay, maybe I need to wait and get a pedal steel, a good working pedal steel, by the way. Or, you know what, I'm going to get on Amazon. I'm going to order a lap steel. There's a couple options there. Of course, the Rogue lap steel. And I mean, there's some other affordable options. Christopher Falk, I hope I said his last name right. He builds a very affordable lap steel. I think some of his are listed under $1,000, and that's who I'm thinking about getting to build a 7-string. But if $250 and under is your budget, hey, you can get into steel guitar. Okay, you can get a Rogue lap steel. You can get a good. You need one of these. You need a tone bar. A lot of people try to play with a slide. If that's all you can get your hands on, I'm not going to discourage it, but you really need one of these. And this is a 10-string tone bar. Actually, do I have a 6-string tone bar? Let's see here. It's stuck to a magnet at the moment. Well, let's see here because I want to show it to you. This, let me set this bowl down. This is a 6-string tone bar right here. I think this is an old Dunlop tone bar, but can you see the size difference? It's a little bit shorter. But now in that regard, if all you can get your hands on is say a 10-string tone bar or 8, if it feels comfortable to you, it's okay. I will say the cool thing about the 10 is I feel like I can do bar bends a little bit easier with it. So get whatever's comfortable. I don't use a volume pedal. A lot of people do, but I don't. Can it give you a more pedal steel vibe? Yeah, it can. But don't confuse yourself yet, okay? I feel like the volume pedal was throwing me off. I was more worried about it than I was my playing. So, if you are bound and determined to have one, I mean, it is good practice. Moyo, I may be saying that wrong. They make a very affordable, little, compact volume pedal. I've got one. I love it. The big one's Goodrich. If you want to spend a little extra money, hey, go for it. The big thing you need is an amp with reverb. I'm actually using a little Washburn Bad Dog amp. It's one I got at a pawn shop years ago for like $25, and it makes one fantastic lap and pedal steel amp. Get some tone out of that thing. But the big thing is you need an amp with a reverb. You don't need an amp that don't have reverb. Now, if you can't find one or all you have right now is an amp, maybe you have a bass amp or something that don't have reverb. Don't fret, it's okay. But later on, you might want that. So, I mean, let's use what we've got. I don't want you to get in debt trying to get into steel guitars. Again, it can be an expensive hobby. I think it's a more expensive hobby than regular guitar, and that's coming from somebody who bought a Martin D18 last year. That was expensive, but getting into pedal steel, it's a little more expensive. So, you probably got that. And pedal steel is just different. When you want to get into that as a hobby, I mean, it's extreme, man. I mean, you want one bad and you want a good one bad. But from the time I started, and I was thinking the other day, what year did I get into steel guitar? I mean, it was probably 2008, 2009. Carter pedal steels were still in business. I remember one of the guitar magazines had the Carter starter in it, and the Magnum Pro Select. Y'all remember those? Those were in there, and they were pricey then. I don't remember the list price, but they were pricey, and it was just out of my range. It just wasn't feasible. And I ended up with Showbud Maverick, and that was okay. It sounded cool. I've still got it. But at the time, I wasn't great at tuning it. I wasn't great at changing strings on it. And I probably spent more time being bad at those things than I did actually learning anything on it. So again, if it's one of these old pedal steels that's kind of finicky, maybe it's a string chewer. There's a lot of those that are they're string breakers, man. And changing that G sharp string, it's a beast. So don't let that be the thing that hinders you. I mean, you may have a lot of talent, but if you spend all your time constantly working on your steel guitar, you're not going to have any time to play. So I know right now, I know those old Showbuds and old Emmons and, everything else, I know they look cool, but oddly enough, I'm telling you, unless that's all you can find or you're just bound and determined that's what you've got to have, I really recommend something newer. I know it's not going to exactly sound like that cool 60s country, but for your own sanity, let's maybe avoid stuff like that right now. I'm just saying, okay? I'm not discouraging you if you got to have it, but I'm just saying. Um, that's kind of all I wanted to share with you right now. I felt like I needed to do this video because I'm seeing a lot of folks that I think they're gonna go down the wrong path, and man, I hate that because you know I understand it's expensive and you got what you got because I've been there, done that. But I don't want you to get discouraged. Matter of fact, I followed up with somebody yesterday who was in the midst of, they had a really junky pedal steel. I mean, that thing was trashed. And they were trying to get it fully functioning as a pedal steel again. And I don't know, maybe it'll happen, but I'd actually encouraged them to use it as a console steel, just get something that's playable. And they kind of given up, to be honest with you. It took about a month for them to just kind of throw the towel in. And I mean, I've done the same thing with a project, but I don't want you to be that person. I want you to slap some strings on what you got, and I want you to be making some sounds on it. So that's my final thought tonight. Just I know we've covered a lot of ground, and y'all have been very kind for the emails you've written me, and you've all asked a lot of good questions. And I hope that once I publish this, and again, I did it as a live just in case anybody wanted to interact. It is late at night, but I want you to be able to go forward. I don't want you to hit a lot of stumbling blocks in your steel guitar journey, because let me tell you, I had a realization the other day. So I started in about 2008, 2009, and I was going back and looking at a lot of the people I'd interacted with through the years, and emails too, steel guitar forum messages too. A lot of them are no longer with us, and I sincerely mean that. A lot of those guys that I interacted with, they're gone. And I mean, I've always realized it's a community that's not necessarily getting bigger. It's getting smaller. And I realized that. I was like, man, that's scary. I was just, looking back at old messages, and I was like, wow, this is sad. And it's just a fact of life. A lot of the steel guitar community um, is predominantly older, and it's just there are young people getting into it. I'm really glad of that, but I don't think there's as many young people getting into it as what we really need. And maybe you disagree with me. I don't. If you do, let me know, because I would love for you to tell me, hey man, you just obviously you're not looking in the right place, because there's tons of young people taking up the steel guitar. I want you to tell me that. But I don't think that's the fact. Even though there are quite a few, and thanks to social media, I do see a few. But I think it's scary how many of the originals have left us. So with that in mind, that's why I'm doing videos like this. I want to encourage you, but I want you to be able to not make the mistakes I did. And making the mistakes I and many others have made, it can cost you a lot of money, and it can discourage you, and we don't want that. So let me know what questions you have, okay? I mean, let me know if there's things I can help you with. If you're out there watching tonight and you're saying, I want to find a steel guitar, but I've looked on eBay, I've looked on the websites, the auction websites, I've looked around at my music stores. I'm just not finding one. Email me. Let me help you, okay? Let me help you. Let me point you to some places online. Let's talk about what your options are and what your budget is. I want to help you with that. So, before you just do something on a whim and then regret it, shoot me an email, okay? I will help you find some budget friendly options that are solid options, okay? I don't want you to buy junk, but I want to help you. Um, and I will do that. I will help you find, you know, tone bar. Thankfully, picks are pretty easy to find. Most music stores have these because guess what? These are the same picks that banjo players use. So most music stores will actually have these in a jar on the counter. So score there. Sometimes they'll have tone bars. You might run into a music store that has a dobro tone bar, which uh, I'm not going to discourage it if that's all you can find and that's easiest for you. For now, that's workable. Don Helms used that. A lot of older steel guitar players used a dobro bar, and if that's all you can find, that's okay. I'm not going to discourage it. If you have a slide, maybe you're a guitar player and you've got a slide laying around, um, it's doable. You really need a tone bar, but for now, we're not gonna fret about that. So it's doable. So let's have some deeper conversations about what your budget is and what works for you, and we'll hopefully get you playing steel guitar. So that's a long video tonight, but I needed to say all that, and I really really hope that at least one person out there has helped just a little bit. But I'm always here for you. I mean, my email again is showbudplayer77@gmail.com. That's in the description of my channel. I would love to help you. If there's questions, and maybe you don't want to post them on one of the Facebook groups or whatever. Now, I don't think any question's a bad question, but maybe some people do. I don't know, but that's okay. So if I can help you with something, let me know. I love to help people get music's a wonderful thing. And if I can in any way, shape, form, or fashion help you to cross that bridge, and I'm gonna set my lap steel down here. Before we go off, I didn't have the comments pulled up. I am gonna check the comment just to make sure nobody had any questions, because unfortunately these chats, they go away when you end the live stream. I'm still learning how live streaming works, and I don't want to miss anybody's question. I don't think we had any, but I don't want to miss anything either. So let's just make sure. And I see we have somebody watching now. I'm just going to make sure that we we didn't have any comments, and that's okay. But I am going to publish this video, so it's going to be made public. And if you have comments you want to make publicly, feel free to do that in the comment section. But if you don't, feel free to shoot me an email. Let's talk steel guitar. Let's get you started. So we're going to try to get you into steel guitar. And I mentioned budget stuff. If you come to me and say, hey Daniel, I want to get into pedal steel, but I don't know what companies are still open, or maybe I'm a little confused about what's where. I'll be glad to have that discussion with you too. And I will tell you this from my own experience. I purchased a brand new pedal steel in 2020, and I never got it. Daniel never got that guitar. Was it a scam? No. It was a very reputable company. But that's a thing that's going on in the steel guitar world today. There's some companies that are years behind. Are you willing to wait 3 to 4, sometimes longer years for a steel guitar? I'm not, and I'm not bashing the company. Steel guitars are a very specialized product. Okay, they're not like Fender and Martin and Gibson that can just whip them out. They're a very specialized product, and there are a lot of shortages. But my attention span's short. So what I'm interested in today, 2 years from now, I might not be interested in. If you're willing to wait 2 to 3 years, hey, perfect. But if you come to me and say, hey, I want one of these new pedal steels, but I need some guidance in finding the companies that are kind of a little bit more caught up, I'm willing to have that conversation with you, because I was in that predicament where at one point I was even promised that guitar within 6 weeks. It was on the bench getting finished, and you know what? Ultimately, it turns out they hadn't even started it yet. So I was able to get my money back. And I'm not going to name the company, and I'm not going to bash them, because they're a good, reputable company. But in 2020, they were having some problems. But had I been a beginner, that would have probably discouraged me. I don't want you to be in that boat, okay? Because I want to help you, and I want you to get a pedal steel that you're happy with, or a lap steel you're happy with, and I want you to be able to move forward. I don't want you to make the same mistakes I did. So I'm going to end the live stream now. Thank you all for tuning in and watching. But I did this because, steel guitar community, it needs growth. We need a lot more new people. But it's easy to make mistakes. It's easy to get in the hole and be discouraged and just say, screw this, I'll go play regular guitar. It happens. But if you want to be a steel guitar player, I want you to be a steel guitar player. Or if you want to be a dobro player, I want you to be a dobro player. Whatever it is you want to be, I want you to be. And if I can help you, shoot me an email, drop me a comment. But until next time, this is the Mississippi Steeler, Daniel, saying happy trails, happy stealing, keep on making music, and we'll see you later.